This is turning into more of a bookshelf tour than an unhaul. The multiple timelines and multiple points of view. Do we get multiple points of view? I probably sound like an idiot when I say this. I mean, it's big, but it's not that big. This is me being a baby. How big is this book? I mean, every once in a while, even I need a break from the dark and messed up thing. The Gothic writer's book is coming to life or something. I don't even know. Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. Today's video is going to be the next video in my All the Books I Own, Let's Unhaul One Shelf at a Time. Not really unhauling stuff, but I really appreciate all the feedback on the first video I did and people who liked it and wanted to see more of it, because I'll be honest, I had a really fun time filming it and I had a really fun time editing it, and I'm enjoying doing something a little bit different. And somebody had commented like it's holding them accountable for books on their shelf and it's some motivation for them. And I'll be honest, it's holding me accountable too. Not just with getting this project done, but also with reading some backlist books is the goal, finding some real favorites, and maybe rereading and revisiting some old favorites. But I'm having a good time doing it, so I am excited that you guys are enjoying it as well. So here we go. We are doing shelf number 2. And what I didn't explain in video number 1, but you guys have probably figured out. So a while ago, I did sort of like the rainbow-esque setup for this bookshelf, and things got a little bit haphazard, but all my books are blended together. So whether it's something I've read, TBR, whatever, it's all blended. It's not by author, it's not by genre, it's not by anything, it's legit by color, and that's it. So I used to group them by author. I feel like my shelf setup would probably make some people nuts, but for me, it's just about the aesthetic that I'm enjoying at the time. And that's why these are just gonna be like a mishmash of different genres, and you're gonna keep seeing the same author over and over again, but over the course of however many videos we do. So I have full collections of a lot of authors, but you might not get to see all of it at the same time. So anyway, it should be no surprise to anyone that my shelf is a little bit chaotic, because obviously I'm a little bit chaotic, but there's a decent amount of books on the shelf that we need to talk about. So let's get cracking. So just like I did the first time, I will tell you guys if I read it, what I thought of it, and any other ideas, thoughts, opinions that popped to mind at the time. The first book is one I have not read, and it's The Boys Club by Erica Katz. And this came out in 2020, and I heard about this on, I want to say, Complicated Women podcast. And this is about sex and power in corporate America. So Alex Vogel is a Harvard Law student graduate, and she is working at a prestigious law firm in Manhattan in mergers and acquisitions, and it's just all the crazy things. So she's like initially seduced by the money and the power and the perks and everything that goes along with working at like a high profile law firm, but then things start to turn. So I am surprised that I'm not hearing anybody talk about this book, but I'll be talking about it at some point. The next book is Sherry LaPena, Someone We Know. And I read this when it came out 2 years ago, I want to say. And this is like dark and messed up things in the suburbs, and I loved it. So we've got two things cooking here. On page 1, we find out that one of the women in the neighborhood was murdered. Don't know who it is, but she gets on page 1. And then people in the neighborhood are also receiving this anonymous letter that's like, my son broke into your house. I'm really sorry about that. So people are starting to wonder, are the two connected? Who broke in? Who's the son? Who's the parent? And it all starts to get revealed. So this is very much like, how well do you know your neighbors? What will you do to protect your kid and your family? All the messed up things that I love. But I enjoyed this one very much. I talked about this in my first video. It is Chris Pavoni's The Expats. This is his first book. This is the book that made me fall in love with him as a writer. CIA, espionage, can we ever escape our secrets? And it's an American couple living in Luxembourg. And I just loved it. I just absolutely loved it. So it says, smart, clever, suspense, skillfully plotted, Grisham, plugged it, signed by Chris Pavoni. I also told you guys in the first one that I will never get rid of signed books. This came out in 2012, but I highly recommend him as an author. I think he is not talked about enough, and certainly not talked about enough on BookTube, but love him. You're gonna see every Marion Keyes book ever written. This is The Mystery of Mercy Close. This is another in the Walsh sister trilogy, or not trilogy, there's 5 books I wanna say. And this is about Helen. And I never finished this book, you guys. I'm a horrible human being. It was one of those books, I wanna say it was even, I was moving when this one came out. Nope, that's a lie, it came out before that. So in this book, one of the sisters is a private investigator. So it's not like hardcore mystery thriller in that way, but it's sort of all the wit and humor and amazingness that is Marion Keyes with a little bit of an investigation on the side. And I need to read it. Brittany Cavallero's A Question of Holmes. This is the 4th and final book in the Holmes and Watson series. I loved it. I talked about this incessantly in December, and it's a modern day Holmes and Watson, and that they're the great whatever grandchildren of Sherlock Holmes and John Watson, and it is all their adventures, and this is book number 4. And if you love Truly Devious or the Inheritance Games, I would pick this up. Good Girl's Guide to Murder. The Holmes Watson series is terrific. The Talented Mr. Ripley by Patricia Highsmith. I haven't read this yet. I talked about this in my all these authors that I own, but I haven't read any of their books yet. So this is one I definitely want to read. Tom Ripley is a great character. I have seen the movie multiple times, but it's time to read the book. Are You Sleeping by Catherine Barber. Haven't read this. This is one of those books that I've put on TBRs in the past and just never actually read it because I'm bad at TBRs, but the only thing more dangerous than a lie is the truth. So we have a woman named Josie, and she's married, but she's basically lied to her husband about her entire past, it sounds like. And her father was murdered 13 years ago. Her mom ran away to join a cult, and her twin sister betrayed her in an unimaginable way. And something has happened in the present now, so we have an investigative reporter that is basically going to uncover all of Josie's secrets, and I imagine it's going to implode her entire life. So it's a thriller. It's a podcast in this. Did I not know that? There's a podcast in this. I should probably move this further up the list. If Looks Could Kill by Kate White. This is the first in the Bailey Wagons series. I have all of these, I want to say, so you're going to see a lot of this series. Kate White used to be the editor-in-chief for Cosmo magazine, and she originally stayed at Cosmo and was writing mysteries, and then she left Cosmo and was 100% writing mysteries, but she has a series and a bunch of standalones. So it's not super dark and twisted. Bailey, her main character, is a crime writer, and her boss, Kat, who is the editor-in-chief of a fictional fantastic magazine in New York City, winds up needing her help because I want to say Kat's nanny gets murdered, her live-in nanny gets murdered, and it's just fun. It's like, I don't want to say it's like easy breezy, but it's not violent, bloody, dark and messed up people doing dark and messed up things. It's more of like what Abby from Crime by the Book, I would say, calls like a popcorn thriller. You can read it in one sitting. It's easily digestible. It's the world of magazines and high fashion and all of that kind of stuff. This came out a while ago, but the books, like the pages are brown. If that gives you any indication of how long I've had this book. But I totally enjoy it, 2002. So you will see this entire series, but I love these. I mean, every once in a while, even I need a break from the dark and messed up things. So that's a great way to get them. Another book that I talked about this series in video number 1, this is Forthcomings by Megan McCafferty. And this is book number 4 in the Jessica Darling series. So again, need to reread these. This one I actually read, and it starts with Jessica in high school and it follows her over the years. I just really enjoyed these books. I haven't read them in decades, but I'm excited to get back into that series and just read it again. Again, another like palette cleanser, change of speed type of a thing, but really enjoyed it. When I first started BookTube, this is one of the first books I talked about, and this is All These Beautiful Strangers by Elizabeth Clayfoth, and I loved this book. This is boarding school vibes, multiple timelines, mysteries in the past, mysteries in the present. I'm excited. I need to reread this book as well. This was just so great, and I love the cover. This was 100% a cover buy to begin with, but it's about a girl named Charlie, and she is kind of pledging the secret society, and then she finds out that her dad had a connection to it, and her mom's been missing since she was a kid, and she's trying to figure out what happened to her mother, and you see the present day, you see when the mom went missing, and then you see the past of when her parents actually meet each other and how they get together. But this was tremendous. This was such a fun book. Really, really good mystery, and Charlie's a tremendous character. Again, kind of in that Charlotte Holmes, Pip, Good Girl's Guide to Murder, Stevie Truly Devious. Like, she's one of, yeah, loved her. Another Leanne Moriarty, this is The Last Secret. I haven't read this one. This was 100% a bargain priced book, so I snagged it. I don't wholly know what this one's about. It says Sophie, it's kind of always wondering if Tom Gordon was the one who got away. So it says as Sophie's life becomes increasingly complicated, she discovers that sometimes you have to stop waiting around and come up with your own fairy tale ending. So it sounds like this is going to be, I don't know if it's multiple points of view, but multiple characters, kind of everything you get from a Leanne Moriarty. I don't know that I've heard a lot of people talk about this one, but I'm keeping it because I very much enjoy her. Full disclosure, throughout this entire series, whatever we're going to call it, there's going to be a lot of Book Outlet made me do it type of things. There's a lot of books on here from when I was shopping at Book Outlet like a crazy person. Veronica Mars, The $1,000 Tan Line. I love the TV show. This is like Spring Break, but I don't think this is what wound up being season 4 of Veronica Mars on Hulu, which PS is amazing if you have not seen it. But I kind of thought this would be fun because I love Veronica Mars, and I 100% haven't read it. Another book I haven't read, Ellison Leota, The Last Good Girl. And I honestly feel like there's probably a few of these on the shelf too. Oh, you guys, this is gonna get embarrassing. So this is another thriller mystery. It says inspired by real life stories, spellbinding, timely thriller. So this is about a girl named Emily. She's a freshman at Michigan. She goes missing. There's a suspect. There's a prosecutor. Case gets media attention. So it sounds like a good investigative thriller. Next up is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. I loved this book. This book was so good, you guys. This was one of those books where, again, like, I'm not a big romance person. This book made me cry. So this is about Macy and Elliot. They were kind of like, they were childhood best friends and kind of childhood sweethearts, but then something happens and then they meet again like 20 years later, and we see both timelines. We see what happened in their relationship. This just was absolutely amazing. This is the only Christina Lauren I've ever read. If you haven't read her, just pick up this book. It's just absolutely everything. Loved it. More Kate White, Even If It Kills Her. This is part of the Bailey Wagons series. I don't know what number this is, but I don't know that you have to necessarily read these in order. It always helps, I think, but you could probably also jump in because it's the only thing that I feel like ever gets ruined in these books is who she's dating at the time. So if that's of interest to you. But she is helping a friend of hers from college. So again, easy breezy, thrillery, mystery fun. I feel like people are going to come for me because I haven't read this one. The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. I feel like people talked about this after Daisy Jones and the Six, and that we've got this one. We have, I think she's a reclusive author, and she hires someone to write her biography, hires a young biographer, and she relives her painful past. So I think it's very much like Evelyn telling her story. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this. A little bit is, you know, I mean, it's big, but it's not that big. This is me being a baby. How big is this book? 400 pages. That's not the end of the world. So I'll read it, I promise. Getting rid of absolutely nothing. Next up is Clean. This one's going to be really annoying on camera because it's super rose goldy flashy. So this is Gossip Girl Goes to Rehab. Do you need to know anything more than that? I don't know why I'm obsessed with a rehab story also, but she's in rehab and it says it's a dirty business getting clean. So sure. Another book I haven't read, Miracle Creek by Angie Thomas. Heard great things about it. One of the most stunning covers. Again, trash for a cover. This was literary courtroom thriller. This was everywhere when it came out, and I need to be reading it. Another book I haven't read, J.T. Ellison, No One Knows. I loved Lie to Me so much. That was the first book by her that I read. And I also read Good Girls Lie, which was boarding school vibes. And she has a new book coming out that's a wedding, isolated thriller, which I'm super excited for. She also, if you guys are authors or aspiring authors, she gives tremendous writing advice. So look for podcasts and interviews with her because she is dead on. She's amazing to listen to. And this is Madness, Deceit, Murder. His death was only the beginning. So Aubrey, not to be confused with me, her husband's declared dead by the state of Tennessee. It should bring her closure. She doesn't want to move on. She just wants him back. It's been 5 years since he disappeared. And why didn't he show up at his friend's bachelor party? Why was he murdered? Did he run away? All the mysteries are still swirling, and I guess no one knows what happened. This is going to be the shelf of books I haven't read yet. 9 Perfect Strangers by Leanne Moriarty. Had to have it. Had to have it. Haven't read it. I will be honest, I heard some not so great things about this book that put me off from picking it up, and I need to just not let that matter. And this is One House, 9 Perfect Strangers, 10 days that will change everything. So this is supposed to be a health and wellness resort, and these strangers go and they bring all their literal and figurative baggage, and then something happens. Something happens. Big Little Lies was tremendous. So I need to read more. The Whisper Man by Alex North. I haven't read this one yet. I read The Shadow Friends. This is his first book, and this was like the... If you leave a door half open, soon you'll hear the whispers spoken. So this was a town with a dark past, and I think there was like I don't know if he was like a serial killer, the Whisper Man. He would lure his victims out by whispering in their windows at night. And I want to say he's in jail for it, but then all this creepy stuff starts happening again in the present. So messed up and creepy. Heard great things about it. Just haven't read it yet. Another book I loved, The Escape Room by Megan Golden. Dark and messed up people doing dark and messed up things. This is really, really, really heinous people who work on Wall Street getting what's coming to them. So this is told in 2 timelines, and we have this group of co-workers from Wall Street who are kind of lured to this abandoned building under the guise of they're having a meeting there, and they wind up getting trapped in an elevator, and it's like a building under construction. And it's not a game, even though it seems like a game, and it's like the escape room is they have to get out of the elevator alive. Oh, it's so messed up. I loved it. I absolutely loved this book. Can't recommend it enough. So good. So good. The Chalk Man by CJ Tudor. This was her first book. I totally loved this one as well. This was told in 2 timelines, and it's like these kids in the neighborhood, and I guess it's kind of like It, but you guys know I haven't read Stephen King. And these friends would leave messages on the driveways in chalk, and then someone starts leaving like some really creepy chalk men that lures the kids out, and there's a dead body, and there's messed up stuff in the past and messed up stuff in the present, and the friends grew apart but they get brought back together again. And I just really, really enjoyed this book. I'm a big fan of CJ Tudor. Haven't read it, had to have it. The Girl He Used to Know by Tracy Garvis Graves. I've heard great things about this book as well. I just haven't picked it up yet, but there's all plugs on the back. Colleen Hoover, Sarah Pekkanen, Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is about 2 people who meet in college, and I don't know, decades later fate reunites them. So I think they dated in college and then something happened and they meet again many years later. So I've heard good things about it. One of my favorites, Taylor Jenkins Reid, Maybe in Another Life. This was, I mean, I feel like it's safe to say all of her books have made me cry, but this is the one where Hannah returns to LA, and she goes out the first night she's home. She's staying with her best friend and her best friend's husband, and they go to a bar to reunite with a bunch of friends from high school. And in one storyline, this is like sliding doors, she leaves with her ex-boyfriend, and in one storyline she leaves with her best friend, and it's the 2 different ways that her life could have happened. And I love on the cover, it says it's not a spoiler to say love wins. So what if everything that is possible actually happens? This is really, really good. I'm such a huge fan of hers, but man, she can crush my soul. Next up, I have 3 books by the exact same author, and I don't know anything about them, you guys. Awful. Alex Marwood. I have The Wicked Girls, The Killer Next Door, and The Darkest Secret. I don't even think these are a series. I think these are just 3 books that look alike. This was 100% a Book Outlet buy also. And they were Edgar winners. I feel like Stephen King, yeah, he plugged this one. I just went so dark or so deep down a rabbit hole, and then I just never actually read them, but I really need to get on this. So these are mysteries and thrillers. What happens behind closed doors? How well do you know your neighbors? How well can you really know anyone? So let me know if anybody has read her books. I'm not letting go of them because again, it's like totally in my wheelhouse, but I just get distracted by all this other stuff that's happening. I've got a problem, friends. I've got a problem. Next author is another one who has a 20 book series, and I have almost all of them. So you're gonna see this peppered throughout these videos as well. And this is Linda Fairstein. This is Night Watch. I don't know what number in the series this is. I'm not gonna know what number any of these are, but this is about ADA Alexandra Cooper. She works in the sex crimes unit in Manhattan. And this is sort of the cases that she works on with the detectives Mike Chapman and Mercer Wallace in NYPD. And Linda Fairstein used to work in the ADA's office. She is a problematic author for sure for some people, and I get it. I totally get it. I've had these books for a really long time. And she was one of the prosecutors for the Central Park Five, the Central Park Jogger case, which eventually became the exonerated five for those 5 teenagers that were wrongfully convicted of raping the Central Park Jogger. If you are not familiar with that story, there's a Ken Burns documentary on it. There's a Netflix story, TV mini-series movie that was made about it. Both really, really powerful. I really enjoy this series. I really love Alex Cooper as a character. This is all set in Manhattan. One of the things that I do enjoy about these books is each book has like a central part of Manhattan where the crime is set. So maybe it is Grand Central Terminal or Gracie Mansion or Museum of Natural History, New York Public Library. So you get like a real history of a lot of things on top of the case. And then there's always a sex crimes case. And then there's another case that's going on. So there's a lot going on in these books. It's definitely a lot about relationships and the personal lives as well, but it's also like dark, gritty, heavy. And yes, there's 20 of those books that have come out. The next book is One by One by Ruth Ware. You guys know I read this recently. I totally loved it. This is a bunch of coworkers go to a fancy schmancy ski chalet in the French Alps, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on between them. And then there's a blizzard and an avalanche, and they get trapped and people start to die, and it's wonderful. Love it. Isolated thriller, mystery, cold vibes. I'd love me some Ruth Ware. So I know I said at the beginning of this video that I don't group my authors together, but for some reason, here's 3 more Kate White books that are on this shelf. These are all Bailey Wagons books. I've read all of them. A Body to Die For. I want to say that one's in a spa. Lethally Blonde. This was, I want to say like an actress maybe gets murdered on a TV or movie set or something. And then So Pretty It Hurts. I don't remember what this one is about. So this is Bailey and her boyfriend get invited to a weekend away at a music mogul's house. Supposed to be fun and relaxing. Somebody dies. Another Linda Fairstein, Silent Mercy. This came out in 2011. This was a book signing and event that I went to. So whatever number in the series it was in 2011, that's that one. Another one in the series, Cold Hit. This one came out in 1999. Again, series of books, murder, mystery, crime. Next book I have that I haven't read, this is Lisa Scottolini's Exposed, and I actually won this at a conference that I went to where she was the keynote speaker. She's another one, if you guys are aspiring writers or published writers or just looking for some writing advice or just even life advice, she is tremendous at that as well. She's also really funny. Her and her daughter do some humor books together, but she's just a vat of really great inspiration. I really enjoy her. I read a bunch of her earlier books, and I haven't read this one yet. And like, not for nothing, you guys, I won this a few years ago. And by a few years ago, I mean like 5, I think. So please don't come for me. But she's just really funny to listen to. If you guys haven't seen interviews or anything with her, she's great fun. This next book is going to be like so tremendously random. This is from 1998. And we can also look about how brown these pages are. This is Brad Meltzer's Dead Even, and this was his second book. The 10th Justice is his first book, which is also, it's on the blue shelf. And this is back when I was in a book club, and these used to be, I guess if like you're in book of the month, whatever the book of the month used to be. back then, and you got like these smaller hardcover versions. And this was like when John Grisham was all the rave, and I just was loving these courtroom thrillers. And these were books, so this one and the other one, when I was rescuing things from my parents' basement many years ago, I didn't want to get rid of them, and I haven't reread them since, but I loved these. And this just, it hit all those courtroom vibes for me at the time. I don't even know what this one's about, but he was in DC. He's written a ton of books since then. I haven't read anything new of his, but I loved these books, so I want to reread them. Next up is Girl Interrupted by Susan Kasian, and this is the book that the movie Winona Ryder, Angelina Jolie was based on. I loved this. This was 1993. I feel like this was in my phase, and again, I feel like this speaks to, where's clean? Maybe this explains this, right? I don't know why I've been fascinated with this since the beginning of time, but I will tell you, part of it, 100%, is I was fascinated by Drew Barrymore's journey as a teenager, when she was a teenager and was in rehab and all of that. And honestly, like, I think there was a part of me when Drew Barrymore came out as with her drinking problems, and like her biography's back here too. I kind of thought it was cool because I loved her. I know. But I became fascinated with the rehab aspect of it, which I probably sound like an idiot when I say this, but I really enjoyed this book. And you guys know I went to school in Boston. I lived in Boston, McLean Hospital, where she went. Like, this is all a real place. This is her real experience. So this is 1967. I haven't read this in forever, but I really liked this book. And again, here we go. I'm like, I want to reread this book, but I will not let this one go. I really enjoyed it and found it very interesting. The next book is pretty new to me, and I haven't read it yet. And this is The Stranger Diaries by Ellie Griffiths. And this is 100% Abby from Crime by the Book made me do it, because she was talking about this book and I just needed to have it, and here it is. And this is about an English professor or English high school teacher named Claire. And it says, death lies between the lines when the events of a dark story start coming true in this haunting modern Gothic mystery. So it says perfect for fans of magpie murders. And one of Claire's colleagues and good friends is found dead, and there's some connection to this Gothic writer and story that Claire teaches on. And the police tell her that, like, she probably knows the person who murdered her friend, and she starts to write in her diary about it because her diary is like her most trusted friend. And then she opens her diary one day and sees somebody else's handwriting in it, and it literally says, "Hello, Claire, you don't know me." So is the Gothic story coming to life, and the lines are blurred, and it sounds all sorts of great, but I'm excited for this one. So I feel like reading about writers and reading about teachers is super fun. And we are gonna close with a bang with the book I have read, Never Look Back by Alison Galen. I loved this book. This is multiple points of view, multiple timelines, mystery in the past, mystery in the present, dark and messed up people doing dark and messed up things. And this is, you have a teenage couple in the 70s who goes on like this 2-week murder spree. You have a podcaster in the present who is looking into what happened back then. And then you have a woman that the podcaster reached out to because he believes that she has some sort of a connection to things in the past. And just secrets are revealed, and who do you trust, and what on earth is going on. And I loved this book so much. I did part of this on audio. The audiobook is tremendous as well, so I can't recommend this one enough. So that's every book on shelf number 2, and here we are failing again. I'm not gonna get rid of anything, you guys. This is turning into more of a bookshelf tour than an unhaul. The upside is I can dust the shelf because it's empty. But let me know if you guys have read any of the books I haven't read, and if you have any thoughts on them, if you think I should let go of some of them, or if I should move them to the top of the list and start reading them. So I was gonna do like try a chapter or something. So I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure about this one. It doesn't totally intrigue me. Let me know if you guys have read it. And I have to say, this one is kind of interesting to me, inspired by real life. And where's the podcast one? And also this one, Are You Sleeping? And I wanna say this was re-released under a different title, and I don't know it off the top of my head. I will like pop it on the screen or something. And I think they made like a movie out of this. Am I talking random? Am I like speaking crazy? Does anybody know? I'm gonna have to look it up. I will look it up and include it in the video So by the time you're watching this, you'll actually know. Yeah, I feel like these two are worth trying to do like try a chapter to see if these are books on my shelf that, oh my God, they're so amazing. And I feel like this is one I might let go of. It doesn't really appeal to me, and I hate to say it, but at the same time, I mean, whatever. But let me know if any of you guys have read this one. I feel like I don't hear anything about this, and I feel like more people don't like 9 Perfect Strangers, but I don't want to get rid of that one because that one sounds more interesting to me. It's also really pretty, so ew, I know. Shallow reason to keep a book, but I mean, it is. So, I mean, it's pretty. Okay, so I'm gonna stop talking because this is already super long, but thank you guys for watching, hanging out, being here, being supportive of my crazy project, and I hope everybody is doing well, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, everybody.